The most dangerous enemy a man can face is not the rival at work, nor the opponent on the battlefield. It is the woman who knows how to manipulate his mind without him even realizing it. Throughout history, men have built empires, led armies, and conquered nations, only to be quietly destroyed by a subtle smile, a well-timed tear, or a carefully staged silence. These women do not fight with swords or fists. Their weapons are far deadlier. Guilt, seduction, pity, and psychological traps that corrode a man's strength from within. Not every woman is dangerous, but some carry within them the cold instinct of power, the ability to bend a man's will while making him believe it was his own choice. Their manipulations are subtle, almost invisible, until it's too late. The man who thought he was in control suddenly finds himself enslaved, drained of confidence, purpose, and even identity. This is why you must learn to recognize them, to identify the patterns, the tactics, and the silent poisons hidden beneath affection. Because the moment you mistake manipulation for love, you hand over your freedom. And once lost, it is almost impossible to take back. Number 1. The eternal victim. The first type of dangerous woman every man must avoid is the eternal victim. At first glance, she appears fragile, innocent, and in need of protection. Her stories are filled with heartbreaks, betrayals, and endless suffering. She tells you about the cruel men from her past, the toxic relationships she barely survived, the unfair world that never gave her a chance. You listen, and your heart softens. You begin to believe that fate has sent you to rescue her. This is her first trap. Unlike the seductive manipulator who uses beauty, the victim uses pity as her weapon. It is disarming because men are naturally conditioned to protect, to provide, to play the savior. She knows this, and she feeds your masculine instinct with her tales of tragedy. The more you listen, the more you feel responsible for her happiness. Slowly, without realizing it, you shift from lover to caretaker, from man to servant. The eternal victim is not truly helpless. On the contrary, she is often highly intelligent and emotionally aware. She understands that nothing enslaves a man more effectively than his own compassion. By making you feel guilty for her pain, she keeps you tied to her. If you ever dare to walk away, she will remind you of how much she needs you, how broken she will be without you. And if you resist, she might even threaten to hurt herself, ensuring that your sense of responsibility traps you in her web. Her manipulation is subtle because it feels noble. You are not giving in to lust or greed. You are answering a moral duty. This makes the trap far more dangerous. When a man believes he is protecting someone, he willingly sacrifices his time, energy, money, and even dreams. He thinks he is strong, but in truth, he is bleeding himself dry. And the victim feeds on this sacrifice like a parasite, growing stronger as you grow weaker. The tragedy is that she will never be satisfied. The more you give, the more she demands. Your efforts to fix her will never succeed because her identity depends on staying broken. If she heals, she loses control. So she ensures that she always remains the victim, dragging you deeper into her darkness. Men destroyed by this type often look back in disbelief. They cannot understand how someone so weak could dominate them so completely. But that is the genius of the eternal victim. She never fights head-on. She conquers by surrendering. She chains you not with force, but with your own heart. And by the time you realize it, the damage is already done. Number 2. The seductive manipulator. The second type of dangerous woman you must avoid is the seductive manipulator. She is not a victim, nor does she beg for pity. Instead, she commands attention with her beauty, her charm, and her intoxicating aura. She knows that desire is the strongest chain a man can wear, and she forges that chain with her body, her voice, and her presence. At first, she showers you with affection. Her touch is constant. Her eyes linger on you with adoration, and she gives you an overwhelming sense of being chosen. This is deliberate. She hooks you with intensity, creating a high so powerful that you mistake it for true love. Every moment with her feels electric. Every kiss feels like a promise of eternity. You become addicted, and addiction is exactly what she wants. Once she has you bound by desire, the game changes. She begins to control the flow of intimacy. She offers it when she wants something, and withholds it when she seeks to punish or test you. Suddenly, the warmth you once enjoyed becomes conditional. She creates uncertainty, sometimes passionate and giving, sometimes cold and distant. And because men crave consistency, you chase the version of her you first met, not realizing that it was only bait. The seductive manipulator understands that men often confuse lust with love. She weaponizes this confusion. By making you feel that intimacy is scarce, she increases its value, and you become willing to pay any price for it. That price might be your money, your loyalty, your independence, or even your dignity. She knows that a man under the spell of desire will surrender more than he ever intended. What makes her dangerous is not only her ability to seduce, but her ability to turn desire into control. A man in her trap stops thinking rationally. He excuses her flaws, overlooks her lies, forgives her betrayals. Because the addiction is too strong, even when he suspects manipulation, he stays, hoping for another taste of the passion she once gave freely. Like a gambler chasing his first big win, he cannot walk away. The tragedy is that the seductive manipulator never truly gives. She trades. Every act of affection has a price. Every kiss, every embrace, every night together is part of a transaction that always benefits her. She does not love the man. She owns him. And the more he invests, the more she drains. By the time he realizes that the passion was a leash, he is already broken, emptied of strength, and enslaved by longing. Men who fall for this type often believe they were in control because they chose her. In truth, they were chosen as prey. The seductive manipulator does not conquer with force. She conquers with desire. And there is no prison more effective than one a man willingly locks himself into, believing it is paradise. Number 3. The guilt trapper. The third type of dangerous woman is the guilt trapper. She does not seduce you with passion, nor does she lure you with weakness. Instead, she controls you by making you feel that you are never enough. With her, love is not unconditional. It is a constant test, and you are always failing. Her weapon is subtle but deadly: guilt. She knows that most men want to prove themselves worthy, not only to the world, but especially to the woman they love. And she turns this noble instinct into a leash. Her words are carefully chosen. "If you really loved me, you would." Or, "A good boyfriend would never do that." Each phrase strikes at your sense of honor. You don't want to disappoint her, so you comply. At first, these demands seem small. Stay with her longer, spend more time, buy her something, sacrifice a plan. But the requests never end. Over time, Guilt becomes the invisible cage you live in. You are no longer acting out of desire or choice, but out of obligation. You stop asking, "Do I want this?" and instead ask, "What will happen if I don't?" This is her power. She conditions you to seek her approval like a prisoner begging for food. The guilt trapper thrives on shifting standards. No matter how much you give, she finds a way to suggest it's not enough. If you spend a night working, she accuses you of neglect. If you spend money on yourself, she calls you selfish. Even when you obey, she moves the goalpost further away, ensuring you are always chasing her impossible expectations. What makes her particularly dangerous is the effect on a man's identity. The constant accusation erodes self-confidence. You begin to doubt your worth, your judgment, your masculinity. You believe that maybe she's right, that you are not a good man unless you keep proving it. And so you give more, hoping one day to silence her complaints. But that day never comes, because her power depends on keeping you guilty. This dynamic is not love. It is slavery disguised as devotion. True love inspires a man to rise naturally. Guilt forces him to kneel. The guilt trapper does not want a partner. She wants a servant who polices himself. She doesn't need to raise her voice, because you are already punishing yourself for not meeting her endless demands. Men who fall into this trap often feel exhausted, drained, and confused. They don't understand why, no matter how much they give, peace never arrives. But the answer is simple. Peace is the last thing she wants. If you ever felt truly secure, her control would vanish. That is why she keeps the wound open, ensuring you bleed loyalty day after day. The man who fails to see through this manipulation slowly destroys himself. He loses not only his freedom, but also his sense of dignity. And once a man forgets his own worth, he becomes the perfect slave, grateful for the chains that bind him. Number 4, the silent saboteur. The fourth type of dangerous woman is the silent saboteur. Unlike the obvious manipulator who uses guilt or seduction, her tactics are quiet, almost invisible. She does not scream, she does not fight openly, and she rarely confronts directly. Instead, she destroys you slowly, like poison slipped into your drink. A little each day, unnoticed, until it is too late. At first, she seems supportive. She compliments you, praises your potential, and shows admiration for your goals. But hidden beneath her words is a subtle undertone that chips away at your confidence. Instead of saying, "You are strong," she says, "You are strong, but not as much as him." Instead of encouraging, she compares. Instead of uplifting, she plants doubt. The silent saboteur's greatest weapon is suggestion. She never openly calls you weak, but she implies it often enough that you start to believe it yourself. She will joke about your flaws in front of friends, add a playful laugh to disguise her sting, or make passing remarks about how other men seem more ambitious, more attractive, or more capable. Each comment feels small, harmless on its own. But over time, these harmless cuts bleed your self-esteem dry. What makes her so dangerous is her patience. She doesn't need to win an argument. She only needs to shape how you see yourself. The more she erodes your self-confidence, the easier it is for her to control you. A man who doubts his own worth will cling to anyone who offers validation, and she positions herself as both the one who wounds and the one who soothes. She breaks you, then pretends to be the only one who can put you back together. The silent saboteur thrives in public spaces. She knows that humiliation in front of others cuts deeper than any private insult. So she sprinkles her sabotage in front of friends, family, or colleagues, always disguised as teasing. People laugh, you force a smile, but inside, the seed of doubt grows stronger. Soon you begin questioning not only your value as a man, but whether anyone else sees you the same way she paints you. The tragedy of this dynamic is that many men defend her behavior. They tell themselves she's just joking or only being honest. They excuse the pain, thinking it's their fault for being sensitive. Meanwhile, her grip tightens, because every time you let it slide, you grant her more power to shape your identity. By the time a man realizes the truth, the damage is often severe. He no longer trusts his own judgment, no longer feels capable, and no longer believes in his ability to stand without her. She has sabotaged not his actions, but his self-image, the foundation of his strength. And when a man's belief in himself collapses, everything else follows. The silent saboteur conquers without raising her voice. Without open war, she destroys silently, efficiently, and leaves you wondering how you lost so much without a single battle being fought. Number 5. The perfect mask. The fifth and most deceptive type of dangerous woman is the perfect mask. Unlike the victim, the seductress, or the guilt trapper, she does not reveal her tactics immediately. She plays the long game, presenting herself as everything a man has ever wanted. Sweet, supportive, loyal, and endlessly understanding. She studies your desires, listens to your dreams, and mirrors them back to you, as if you had finally discovered your soulmate. At the beginning, her perfection feels intoxicating. She agrees with your opinions, laughs at your jokes, and shows admiration for your strengths. She makes you believe you are the center of her world. In her presence, you feel not only loved, but celebrated, as though fate itself had delivered you the partner you always dreamed of. This illusion is her masterpiece, but the mask cannot stay on forever. Once you are emotionally invested, once you have committed time, resources, and perhaps even your future to her, the cracks begin to show. The sweetness becomes conditional, the loyalty turns into demands, and the admiration shifts into control. Suddenly, the woman who once seemed to empower you now begins to restrict you. She criticizes small things, tests your devotion, and slowly replaces her earlier admiration with subtle dominance. What makes the perfect mask so dangerous is the timing of the reveal. By the time her true nature emerges, you are already deeply entangled. You remember the woman she pretended to be, and you keep chasing that version, believing that if you love her harder, sacrifice more, or prove yourself better, she will return to the perfect partner you first met. But that woman never existed. She was a mask, carefully crafted to ensnare you. The perfect mask thrives on a man's hope. Hope that the relationship will go back to the blissful beginning. Hope that the kindness, the affection, the tenderness were real. And because men cling to hope, they endure far more than they should. They excuse the manipulation, overlook the control, and forgive the cruelty, because they are addicted to a ghost, a memory of someone who never truly existed. The tragedy is that this trap can last for years. Entire marriages have been built on illusions like this, with men sacrificing their freedom and happiness in pursuit of a woman who was only ever a shadow. By the time they realize the truth, they are often drained of strength, resources, and even identity. The mask has already done its work. It lured them in, chained them, and consumed them. The perfect mask is the most dangerous because she does not appear dangerous at all. She appears ideal. And in that illusion of perfection lies the deadliest form of control. These 5 types of women do not fight with open hostility. They conquer with psychology, subtlety, and patience. They know that the easiest way to destroy a man is not to strike his body, but to enslave his mind. Once his confidence is broken, once his freedom is surrendered, he becomes a willing prisoner who defends his own chains. The tragedy is that many men never realize the danger until it is too late. They confuse manipulation with love, control with devotion, and poison with passion. They believe they are strong while quietly being drained of their will. The only defense is awareness. To see the patterns early, to recognize the tactics before they take root. A man who learns to detect these subtle manipulations regains the power to protect himself. But the one who ignores them walks blindly into a trap, handing his life and freedom to someone who never truly loved him.